A very good evening to all of you, and it's another wonderful occasion for the whole world and for us here at the National Science Center. We are celebrating the World Environment Day 2020 here at the National Science Center, and we have a wonderful panel of guests with us with whom we'll be discussing, we'll be asking questions, and will be seeking their opinions on how important the environment is and how conserving the environment and the biodiversity is a very important step towards sustainable development. The theme for this year's World Environment Day is biodiversity. Biologists have told us that the earth is about 4.54 billion years old, and a billion years after that, during which time the surface of the earth was a cauldron of a lot of materials, including water, organic molecules. There were a lot of atmospheric phenomena too. There was lightning, there were volcanic eruptions, there was all kinds of geological activity going on the surface of the earth. And because of that, the first form of life evolved. And from then on, we have been getting more and more complex till we have very complex living organisms today, including we human beings, who because of our intellect seem to have ascended to the top of the biodiversity pyramid. But we also carry with us a great responsibility, a responsibility in which we need to conserve each and every living organism so as to maintain a fine and delicate balance on earth, without which the whole of the biosphere will be destroyed, and with the biosphere goes the earth, and we will not have a habitat anymore to live in. It becomes a very grievous situation at that time, and in order to prevent that, we have been working very hard to preserve the biodiversity, the ecology, and the environment of the earth since time immemorial. Because there have been traditional methods, even in India, we know people have worshipped trees. There are instances when people have hugged trees in places like Uttarakhand in order to prevent them from being cut down. The Bishnoi community, which is spread over parts of northern and western India, is known to love their environment and protect their environment in a very aggressive manner, I should say, because of which biodiversity thrives in India. So without taking much time, we have a very knowledgeable panel here who will be discussing different aspects of this. Okay, can Mr. Kailash Chandra please introduce himself and our panelists? Oh, okay. We had decided that it would be a far better idea for all the panelists to introduce themselves. Dr. Handel, can you briefly tell us a bit about yourself to our audience? And then we can proceed with our discussions.
Hello, I'm Stephen Handel. I'm a plant ecologist in the United States, and I serve as a professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey on the East Coast of the States. It's a pleasure to be with you, at least on my computer today. I've spent my whole life being interested in plants, and I've learned how important they are for people all over the world.
May I also request Dr. Monica Call and Ms. Manisha Saini to introduce themselves briefly.
Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Monica Kaul, Assistant Professor in the Department of Botany, Hansraj College, a premier college of University of Delhi. I'm involved in teaching various courses that include ecology, environmental studies, environmental management, and reproductive biology of plants.
Hello, I'm Manisha Saini, Chief Executive, Harajivan.
Hello everyone. I am Kailash Chandra, serving at the National Science Center Delhi for the past 25 years, and presently I am in the capacity of education officer, and by profession I am a science communicator, and I design and organize various kind of educational activities for the different segments of the society, school students, college students, parents.
Dr. Netra Bandari is a data scientist from the University of Beirut in Germany. She also teaches at the university. Dr. Bandari, I wonder how data science comes into environmental studies. Can you elaborate a little?
Biodiversity, ecology, and environment are interlinked components of a larger natural system. By training, I have studied multiple aspects of natural sciences. However, I have specialized in ecological and environmental science. As a young researcher, I like to combine ecological theory, fieldwork, and synthesize existing data to answer some questions that fall in the domain of macroecology, community ecology, and socioecology. I also like to do some science communication and outreach work, and I try to create awareness for various environmental issues.
The topic on which we are discussing today is time for nature. How much time and what kind of quality time are we able to give to nature so that we are able to live in harmony with it? And we just met Dr. Handel. So let me begin with you, Dr. Handel. With your vast experience in ecological studies, can you please elaborate for our audience the important components of ecology with a focus towards biodiversity?
Our world has changed. Billions of people use the landscape, and it's not easy conserving the biodiversity that remains around us. So much has changed. For example, where people live and work, the land is fragmented, as you see on this picture. Our homes, activities, roads, and industries cover so much of the ground. It's very hard for plants and animals to survive in this kind of a habitat, but it's not impossible to conserve small pockets of what we have and maybe even bring back bits of nature. I live very near New York City, the biggest metropolis in my country. Here's an example of how we can improve and conserve nature even in our biggest cities. On the shore of New York Harbor, those white piers on the right side of the image, was a very busy commercial waterfront for hundreds of years. Boats used the shore to support the economy of my country's industry. Then things changed and the waterfront failed. It was too small for railroads and for modern container ships. The land was abandoned. But now it's been turned into a grand public park, which is so popular. What was parking lots and warehouses is now beautiful nature filled with walkways, new pools that collect water, and it's visited by thousands of people every week. Nature has returned in these ways to this part of the big city, and it's a model for what can be done in so many other places. These are actions that different professionals working together with public officials and the public can do to conserve nature in our world. It's an alternative for more just destruction of what we have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Handel. When I talked initially, I mentioned that ecology, environment, biodiversity, all these are very closely linked, and most people also are aware of this fact. But the exact relationship between ecology, the environment, and biodiversity, their conservation, for the sustainment of the biosphere are things about which our audience would like to know. So, may I request you to talk in a little detail about ecology, environment, and conservation of biodiversity for sustaining the biosphere?
If we want to conserve nature and biodiversity, we've got to convince people the value of nature, what we now call ecological services. Nature is not just beautiful, it's also valuable, serving so many of the needs we have, particularly in urban cities, and the world is becoming very, very urban. I sometimes tell government officials, if we had more nature in the city, we'd save tax money, and that gets their attention. The whole world has seen that in New Delhi during this difficult time, the air has gotten so much cleaner and so much more enjoyable for the people there. It's a story that's been seen all over the world. My friends in Milano, Italy tell me that they can see the Italian Alps now for the first time because the air is so much cleaner with so much industry stopping because of the disease. It's a moral that we take care of our environment, public health in many ways can improve. And we need many, many species to do this urban improvement. One of the great ecologists, Paul Ehrlich, once wrote that species are like rivets on an airplane. The more rivets we have, the safer the plane is. Even if some rivets fall off, the plane will still fly and stay together. Species are like that. The more species we have in our environment, the greater the chance that ecological function can persist. And species act together. I study plants, but I've learned I need so many kinds of animals to have healthy botanical habitats. Birds are necessary to move seeds about. We did a study planting small trees that bear fruit. And we recorded how many birds came and deposited seeds in little traps under those trees. Thousands of seeds came in each year. They're adding new plants and new species, and we don't have to pay these birds. And they come every year. We need birds to support the diversity of the plant life around us. And we also attracted pollinators. The few plants I put in, we studied the flowers, and dozens of species of wild pollinators came to visit the flowers, help making seeds. These pollinators also then can move out to the food gardens in our cities. Urban agriculture is becoming so important and popular. Without patches of nature, we don't have pollinators, and the hope for urban food supplies and food security goes down. So even in our biggest cities, nature and the links in nature can serve us.
That was very interesting, Dr. Handel, and you very rightly pointed out that most cities in the world, including Delhi, has become a lot cleaner in the recent days. It was also reported in the newspapers that the Himalayan ranges could be seen from the plains much, much farther from them. And such phenomena must be common in all parts of the world. Let me ask Dr. Kaul about the local perspective on this. Dr. Kaul, you reside in Delhi and you see Delhi, you have been seeing Delhi for quite some time now. And can you tell us, therefore, what exactly are the ecological or let's say environmental challenges in Delhi, and can you quote some facts or data to prove your point?
I think population pressure is the foremost ecological and environmental challenge, and this in turn is a burden on natural resources. With the estimated population of 19.5 million, the carbon and ecological footprint is increasing. This is resulting in various other environmental problems. such as pollution of air. If you look at the data of past 3 years only, the air quality has deteriorated in Delhi. Suspended particulate matter, benzene, and other volatile compounds have increased in the air. This is also a burden to the public health. Because of this, there are increasing incidences of the respiratory problems. The hospitals had to admit people with asthma, strokes, and other related problems. So the air quality index is really poor, and during the winter months, due to the burning of the stubble, the pollution levels are also increasing because of the activities from the adjoining states. So we don't have to address the environmental problems created by Delhi itself. We also have to address the problems created by other states. So that's a big thing we need to look at. In last 2 years, we have also seen that government had to close the schools due to the air pollution, because children were getting sick. They were they were elderly were also getting affected. Another important environmental problem is of the water pollution. Lots of sewage disposal goes into the water bodies, and there is also the chemical runoff from the agricultural land that goes to the water bodies, which is actually act like a sink to all this. So according to the Central Pollution Control Board reports, many chemicals in Delhi water are much above the World Health Organizational permissible limits. So we have to look into that aspect as well. Another thing which I feel is that the groundwater quality is depleting at a very fast rate. So pollution and the depletion of the water resources is something which has to be looked into, and it's a crisis like situation which may emerge very badly in the future years. Also, I feel if you look at the Niti Aayog data, Delhi is among 21 major cities that will run out of groundwater by 2020, which is now. So and this water is depleting at an astonishing rate of 10 centimeter per year. What are we going to do about it? This is a serious challenge which the policymakers have to address. Looking at biological diversity that helps in sustenance of life on Earth, that is also decreasing. I'm talking about biodiversity in particular, not the green cover. Green cover might have increased, and we have substantial data to support that green cover has increased. But various components of biodiversity have decreased. We once were the second most bird diverse states, but now we have to have a special day for conservation of sparrows. So even government had to declare sparrow as the state bird, so that a lot of conservation measures are taken for that. Wetland biodiversity has shrinked a lot, because wetlands are almost very few are left. Once if you look at the Delhi Gazette, there were more than 350 wetlands, but we have very few left. So the shrinking population of nilgai, butterflies, civets, jackals, that is also something very important, because if all the trophic levels of the city forest are not maintained, you can't say that it's a self-sustaining unit. Besides the biodiversity, I strongly feel that waste management is another issue which we need to address. The national capital itself generates 10,500 metric tons of waste. So out of this, only a small fraction is processed, but rest of the waste is there lying as lying at various places, Balswa and near Ghazipur, and they may turn out to be an environmental disaster if we don't manage this waste carefully. We also have to look at how to segregate waste, how to have a system in place to manage this waste.
That's right, Dr. Cole. You rightly elaborated the environmental challenges of Delhi, and I think these challenges are more or less universal and are applicable to most major cities of the size of Delhi in the world. What, Dr. Cole, would you say about the theme of this year?
The theme of World Environment Day 2020 is Time for Nature. How pertinent and appropriate theme for this year. Nature has provided us with bounties in plenty, and since we got many things from nature for free, we got greedy as well. We started commanding nature than obeying it. It nurtured us like a mother, and we exploited it beyond its carrying capacity. Now it's the time for nature. It's the time for us to help nature restore it. We have to give back to it, and we have to indulge in activities that can reverse the harm which has already been done. All of us together have to pay attention and give more time for activities that can help in conservation of the resources and protection of the environment. I think the year 2020 has given us an opportunity to take time out and think how we can, through our various activities, help in creating a better environment for our future generations.
Thank you, Dr. Cole, and you rightly elaborated on the environmental challenges of Delhi, and it's a serious issue. We must be all thinking very seriously about this. We'll go back to Dr. Handel now. Dr. Handel, you have traveled a lot, especially to study the environment and biodiversity in different parts of the world. What are the present challenges for conserving biodiversity in the biosphere?
Well, there's many challenges in conserving nature, particularly where people live. The first is attitudes. People have to see that nature is important in our lives and not dangerous. Oh, so many people have said to me, "Oh, Stephen, don't add back trees to our city streets. Criminals will hide behind them. Birds will come and maybe the birds will carry diseases." I tell them these are very, very rare events. In fact, birds can eat thousands of insects to support our health and stopping insect-borne diseases. Trees can clean the air, making it cooler and more comfortable and healthier for all ages on our streets. Nature as a support for public health is an important message. We certainly live in a time when people need more food and more space, and nature can help us get those things. We want to grow food in cities. The pollinators that I showed you help build seeds and add yield. This is one part of nature that all people can get involved with supporting. It's not just for professional biologists like myself. Everyone can help improve biodiversity in our towns and cities.
Thank you, Dr. Handel. That was very interesting coming from you. Let me now ask Dr. Cole, how can better ecological management lead to the conservation of biodiversity?
See, for any any conservation policy, especially for the conservation of biological diversity, we need to have strategic plans in place. We cannot just think of conserving a species or a population or a group of wild animals without understanding why we need to conserve them. So and for every species or a amalgamation of a species or a biodiversity specific aspect, we have to understand the role of the species in that ecosystem. We have to understand the size of that population in an area. We have to know what are the bottlenecks in the conservation aspects. We have to understand how is the reproductive process occurring in that particular species, and what is the problem in the multiplication of species. We have to understand so many ecological aspects. So unless and until we have a strategic plan in place where we outline what are our goals, what are our aims, and how we are going to address our goals and aims, we definitely are not going to have good results. Because every habitat is different, every species is different. Environmental policies are becoming territorialized, in the sense they have to address to the problems, threats, needs, and expectations of the particular region or the particular species that is available in that region. So it is really important to achieve any success in any conservation method. A plan should be in place, and that plan has to be executed. It has to be time bound. It has to be audited, timely, and it has to be monitored seriously. Then only we are going to have results as we aim to achieve.
That was great. Netra, I asked you this thing earlier also. You are an ecologist, and as you said, you are an aspiring data scientist with a focus on global change. Can you please give us a little more detailed account of how your expertise contributes to ecological conservation, biodiversity conservation, and environmental preservation?
Currently, we are in the age of information, and we are seeing a rise in the use of data science across all sectors of the society and also in ecological sciences. Large volumes of data have been collected or produced by individual ecologists across the world, and combining them to form global datasets or long-term datasets presents us with unprecedented opportunities for advancing not only ecological science but also informing resource management through data-intensive approaches. Now, ecology is evolving rapidly and increasingly changing into a more open, accountable, interdisciplinary, collaborative, and data intensive research. With the help of large data sets and data science tools, we as scientists are able to study long term changes, especially in predicting effects of climate change on biodiversity, natural resources, and human lives. The results of such studies is also helping us in making informed and timely decisions.
Netra, we know that biodiversity flourishes in the tropical regions. But when I have traveled in Europe, I have seen that there's a lot of biodiversity in Europe also. Nature is very pristine, very well preserved. Being an ecologist and also having studied the biodiversity all over the world, can you tell us something about the comparative ecological health of the European continent with respect to India, and other tropical regions.
The European Union is taking many steps in conserving their biodiversity and the ecological health of the continent. In January 2020, they have taken up an ambitious EU Biodiversity 2030 strategy, wherein they are addressing the various factors that are driving biodiversity loss. And for this, they have allocated 30% of their land area towards biodiversity conservation and 10% of their long-term budgets for such causes. And they have taken up many initiatives like Natura 2020, which is the largest protected area of the world, and new initiatives like conservation of pollinators and birds and their habitats. Also, the EU is aiming towards rising use of renewable energy, and the countries like Germany, Spain, Italy are among the top users of renewable energy. People all over the world are voicing their concerns towards environmental conservation and protecting their natural resources. Globally, institutes, governments, and businesses are changing their way of working towards sustainable development.
Dr. Handel, you're a very senior researcher in this field, and I would like to request you to give some advice to young researchers in this field.
I am particularly interested in restoration ecology, bringing back species and habitats, even in cities. Conservation means saving the pieces of nature that we still have in a degraded world. Restoration means adding back additional species to build the network and corridors of life around us. This will help make the whole world sustainable and functioning. We study biology, we study land use, and we involve the public to play a role in restoration ecology. Throughout the world, restoration ecology is becoming a new activity for all ages of people and in all kinds of habitats. And we're learning the best methods and protocols to restore nature, often at low cost. We hope that throughout India, and there are groups there and foundations which are very active in this, can also add back the fabulous landscape that the world knows you have.
Thank you, Dr. Handel. Tell me, which areas did you find were the toughest when you start working towards conserving the environment?
One of the hardest things I have to deal with as a restoration ecology is to make people understand just how valuable nature is. It regulates and cools our air, it cleans our water, it helps build new soil, it helps clean the rivers and ponds around us. Also, natural areas in our cities and elsewhere can be used by students to improve their education in so many subjects, not just science, but also the humanities. In New York City recently, the last mayor planted 1 million trees. He didn't just because trees are so lovely. He did it to clean the air and to stop kids from having lung disease, such as asthma. It was costing the city so much in public health to treat these children in emergency rooms. By spending relatively little money on trees, the air is cleaner and the health of our citizens is so much better. Mayor Bloomberg said, "I'm not doing this just for the beauty of nature. I'm doing it for the value of nature."
The year 2020 has been a very disturbing year for the whole world, for humanity in general. What began as a small outbreak in a small city in China in the last year has gained pandemic proportions all over the world, and millions of people have been infected with COVID-19. But there also seems to be a bright side to this. Many countries have locked down and citizens are restrained to their houses. They are not moving around in the cities and villages and the countryside as much as they used to earlier. The interaction between man and non anthropological environment has reduced to a very large extent in recent days. Especially in the past 2 or 3 months, we have been hearing a lot about wildlife being seen on the roads, dolphins in rivers, and a lot of such other things. Let me ask Dr. Handel, how do you see the scenario pre-COVID and post-COVID-19? As far as the environment is concerned, do you find any changes, any improvement in the condition?
In this time of coronavirus, it's just horrible for all of us, all over the world. I've been trapped in my house for over 2 months now. The disease is destroying our civic life, but people are also learning how much we need each other, how we can each help each other in simple ways, whether it's wearing a mask so we don't infect a neighbor, or to looking out for others, our seniors, who need help getting food and other chores of everyday life. So in those ways, community life here in the United States is improving as we get off our computers and realize the people around us are so important to us. We're also seeing that wildlife as well as clean air is returning to some of our cities. It's becoming clear we can improve our world and our biodiversity, that our cities are not just where we live and work, they also can be the home for valuable and health-giving nature. People are also commuting less. This saves resources and saves money. And even though there's death all around us from this disease, we're getting some new lessons how to make a better future for us all.
Let me ask Netra the same question. What do you see based on your data analysis and things? From the month of January to the end of May, do you see any improvement in the ecological health?
The impact of COVID-19 has not been same all across the world. However, many regions are experiencing improvements in their environmental and air quality. In Germany, people have observed a decline in nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter. From these two figures, you can see how the air quality has drastically changed in Germany from January 1 to May 29, 2020. You can see in January the air quality ranged from moderate to very poor, and now it has shifted to good and moderate. These changes can be attributed to the change in meteorological conditions. However, the impact of lockdown has been quite significant on the air quality of Germany.
Well, I think we now have a fairly good idea about what actually the environment is, what is biodiversity, what is ecology, and how it is important to conserve these things so that human beings live in harmony with them and in a healthy manner. This is not to be seen as something which specialists do. This is to be seen as something, as far as I can understand, based on our discussions till now, as something that the community does, because it is the whole community that interacts with the environment, and there is nothing a specialist can do to help heal the environment once it has been damaged beyond repair by the collective action of the community. The most important thing, in my opinion, therefore, is to create community awareness and to make people, especially young people, students, aware of their role in conserving biodiversity and in protecting the environment. Let me begin by asking Dr. Monica Call, because you teach in a college. How do you engage the students' community in preserving the health of the environment?
Uh, we are engaging students through various platforms. One is through teaching learning, as ecology is a part of their course curriculum. We have a syllabus which we teach to them, in which we teach them ecological principles of succession, waste management, and other things which they can use in environmental management data. We also engage students by taking them to various field trips, industrial visits. We take them to biodiversity parks, natural heritage areas. We take them to biosphere reserves so that they get familiar with the biodiversity of the region. We also do lots of our daily practicals in various areas in Delhi, in some of the parks, and also because our college is at a strategic location near the Kamala Nehru Ridge. We do lots of phytosociological studies there where students learn to find out the density, abundance, and other attributes of the vegetation. We also have a museum and a herbarium in the college where we train students to preserve certain specimens, because later on these specimens can be used in teaching learning process. Sometimes some of these specimens which have been preserved in herbaria and museums, serve as tools, because in nature many of these species have been lost. We also do lots of projects. In one of the papers on environmental management, students are assigned projects wherein some students did a lot of interesting work. They studied the water quality of Yamuna at various places, both upstream, downstream, near Okla, near the Yamuna Khadar area, and they studied the impact of the day-to-day activities on the water quality of the region. We also have lots of societies that are highly active in the college. So we have one of the environmental awareness societies, which is called Haritima in Hansraj College. So that society has students from all the disciplines, all the various courses, and these students carry out lots of activities. They are in cyclothons, they celebrate various environmentally important and commemorative days. So they do seminars and symposia during National Biodiversity Day. They do it during the Wildlife Week. So they create a lot of enthusiasm among the youngsters, so that they become aware about the various natural resources and their conservation. We also engage students by through other platforms like NCC, National Credit Corps Corporation of India, and that National Service Scheme. There we have an environmental wing that works on the environmental conservation and rural development. So these are various platforms where students come together with teachers, and they also get they get in touch with certain NGOs, and thus involving various stakeholders, create awareness, and also create some kind of a data base on some of the environmental aspects. We did project on hospital waste management and compared the data, how the government hospitals, private hospitals, and small nursing homes dispose of their hospital waste. So there are lots of activities by which we engage students so that they are aware about the environmental problems, biodiversity, resource management, and other activities.
Thank you, Dr. Kaul. My colleague, Mr. Kailash Chandra, is a senior education officer with the National Science Center. For the past 3 decades, and he also has a post graduation in environmental science. And he has been doing a lot of programs for quite some time now to tell students who come to the National Science Center about the importance of living in harmony with the environment and protecting the environment. Can I therefore now request Kailash Chandra to share his experiences about the different programs he organizes, the different ways in which he has been interacting with students, the different programs he conducts, etc., for protection of the environment.
Thank you, sir. I have been organizing a lot of programs for the different stakeholders of the society, majorly school students, underprivileged children, parents, senior citizens, and the reach of the program is not confined to Delhi only. I have been doing a lot of activities, educational activities in the northern India, where we have almost 8 states with more than 25 million population. And the objective of the program is first to make all students, visitors, to make them aware about the environment, how to conserve it, and why it is so important. That's the basic objective. Secondly, to have an inclusiveness in the programs where all are included, including the people who are not able to visit the science center or those who are out of the reach of the National Science Center. So the inclusiveness is another objective where we keep in mind that the programs are designed in such a way that they reach to a lot of people. We do the programs which are very traditional in nature, like painting competition, elocution competition, essays, seminars, workshops. But there are sometimes very specific topics also, which are very localized, or they deal with the local problems. If it is Delhi, so the water pollution, the air pollution, or the noise pollution in Delhi. So we deal such kind of programs. We do such kind of programs for the students and the teachers and parents also, so that they become a bit sensitive about their natural resources. We have galleries on water, the elixir of life. We also talk about the India being a developing country, so we need a very cheap and easily available energy source. So that we do not pressurize our natural resources or the fossil fuels. So we talk about the nuclear powers. We have a full gallery on the nuclear power where we take students, have popular science lectures, and do a lot of activities. We go out of Delhi as an outreach program, and in these outreach programs, we have a fleet of mobile science exhibitions, which goes into the hilly areas, to the very plain, deep in the villages. And the exhibitions on environment and its related subjects are mounted on this bus, and they travel almost 6,000 kilometers in one single year, and they remain on tour for 150 days in one particular year. And secondly, also we go to the different places with a program called Science Festivals, where we stay for 3 to 4 days and deal with the local problems related to the environment, ask the experts to contribute, and organize a lot of programs. So with this reach, with these all kind of programs, we try to create an awareness and sensitivity towards the environment and its components. Every year, like this is the year for the topic of this year is Time for Nature. Similarly, whenever there is a program of national, international level, we do participate. Like I have personally gone to one Bright Green Youth program in Denmark a few years back, and recently I have been to California with a set of students where they made some projects on CO2, carbon dioxide management, and waste management, other such kind of projects. So this kind of programs we keep on doing, and we'll in future also we'll touch these subjects and keep on doing this also. Thank you.
Netra, you were mentioning that when you were a student with the Delhi University, you were also heading the education section of the National Service Scheme, the NSS, and you dealt with underprivileged children. How was your experience, and do you think that this segment of the society has any important role to play in the conservation of the environment?
I was the educational head of the National Service Scheme of Hansraj College from 2013 to 14. And I had a very interesting journey during that 1 year. My team and I used to teach underprivileged students every day for 2 hours. And we also used to organize many educational trips and organize many events like Diwali Mela, the Independence Day celebration. And the major challenge that I used to face during those days was to keep the underprivileged students motivated to continue their studies, especially young female students. And I believe that the current college students and young students who are filled with enthusiasm and motivation, they should dedicate their time towards giving back to the society.
Thank you so much, Netra. May I now ask Dr. Kaul, because you also are in the field of formal education, you teach in a college. Can you share your experiences about how to create awareness among the students about the environment and its protection?
Yes, of course. As a teacher in the university college, we have lots of community awareness programs where we have to participate. So some of the programs where I participated was on Delhi Ridge Restoration Project. So Center for Management of Degraded Ecosystems, which is headed by Professor C.R. Babu, they are doing a lot of work in both North Delhi and South Delhi Ridge. Our students were involved in this North Delhi Restoration Ridge project, wherein we are trying to take out the invasive species, pruning. We are actually pruning the invasive species and introducing the natives back into the habitat. So many of our students participated in that project. They planted the tree species. They also did seeding of many of the species, and they are, right from digging of the pits to plantation. So they learned lots of skills during that activity as well. I have also participated in various campaigns that are run by Delhi government, including No Crackers campaign during the Diwali, because we wanted that the residents in various welfare societies and the various households should not be involved in burning of the crackers. We are also, as Haritima in charge, I did lots of sessions with the people in various localities, especially in the Yamuna Khadar area, and talked to them about the cleanliness, the hygiene, biodiversity, protection and conservation aspects in local vernacular languages. Our students did plays and talked about various issues of urban biodiversity conservation through those plays. Most often, I contributed to local newspapers whenever there's any community awareness program. I also have participated in some of the discussions on the Doordarshan Rajya Sabha TV and talked about the conservation of natural resources, especially the forests, especially forests. So another important awareness program where I have participated is a public-private partnership program which is coordinated by MIF, which is Millennium India Education Foundation, and they're supported by Department of Science and Technology, NSC, NCST division, wherein we were talking about biosphere reserves and their importance, and how the biodiversity in Delhi has changed in the past few decades. So that program has various schools as a part of it, and I went to various schools, talked to the students, assigned them small projects so that they get familiar about the native biological diversity. We told them to study biodiversity in the parks, which are in 1 to 2 kilometers of their school area. So lots of community programs and campaigns have been spearheaded by our college as well, where I have been an active participant.
Your experiences about the community awareness programs were especially interesting, Dr. Kaur. And let me tell you, Netra and also Dr. Kaul, that we at the National Science Center also organize a lot of programs for underprivileged children. We bring them in from different parts of the city and sometimes even from outside the city. And we conduct a lot of programs for them at the National Science Center here, many of which are related to environment, biodiversity and ecology. So we are also contributing and doing our bit towards that. And Mr. Kailash Chandra is the person who is in charge of it. Netra, you mentioned something very interesting which we have heard from many people who come to conduct programs at National Science Center in recent years, that you have visited the National Science Center as a student and you have seen certain interesting things. Can we hear from you about your visit to the National Science Center as a student, and in your view, what has the National Science Center been doing to create awareness on environment, and what more can we do in the future?
I visited the National Science Center when I was in my bachelor's, and it was a very fun and interesting experience for me. I remember that they had experiments from physics, and they also showed how evolution took place and how science was practiced in ancient times and how it has evolved in the current times. As I believe that the National Science Center is doing a phenomenal job in creating awareness for science and especially for environment among young students. Their activities like Earth Day, Ozone Day, and celebration of Environment Day is creating awareness among students. Their entire exhibit of water and elixir for life was very thought-provoking when I was there. And it not only showed how water is used in everyday day-to life, but it also showed how water is a very valuable resource and needs to be conserved. Such activities, not only bring young minds together, but they make them aware of what is happening around the world and how, as a student, you can contribute towards environmental conservation.
We have with us Manisha Singh also here, who is the Chief Executive of Hara Jeevan. It's an NGO working in the field of environment. And I would like to ask Manisha whether she has any message to give to our students and to the viewers of this program.
Hara Jeevan, as the name represents, green life. Just imagine when you wake up in the morning and when you see outside the window, you find lush green outside. The birds chirping, insects buzzing. What if everyone sees this? This is the vision Hara Jeevan has conceptualized 5 years back. And then we started with tree plantation. We had done 3 major projects, out of which first was our Hara Vidyalaya, coming with the concept of making all the schools move towards being green. They have to work on increasing the green cover. They have to be close to nature. This is what we have taken the school students, the college students, the coming future to work together, to come together, to love our nature and move forward. With this, we have started with the composting of all the green waste which is being generated in the schools. Now, the students join hands and work on planting as well as working on reducing the waste and coming up with a beautiful compost, the black gold out of it. Second, we have to connect with our farmers. We have to connect with our villages. That is the reason we started this new project, Harit Kranti. We have to bring revolution, the green revolution. We have to empower our farmers. So that's why we adopted many villages wherein we have planted fruit bearing trees which bear fruit which give livelihood to my farmers. Project 3 was working on waste. Model Ward 58. It's a ward in Rohini area wherein the government started segregation of waste. The thumb rule of waste management is waste segregation. Unless and until we segregate waste, we can't work on waste. For that, we were able to achieve 90% segregation in the entire ward and was able to work on 16 tons waste being generated per day. The work can be done. It is achievable. Only and only if each and everyone comes up, stands up, works on it and makes towards the environment, a green environment. Taking a step further, we have to work on water also. As everyone is aware of, the water is going to be a major issue. So we have to definitely work on this water. That is the reason we have started adopting many villages, working on water restoration, pond revival and conservation of water. So we appeal to all the generation next, please come together, join together to come for the green revolution, water conservation and working on the betterment of our environment. Have been associated with National Science Center for a long time. It was really a pleasure working with them, the way they are working with the students and the way they are creating the awareness with all the generation next. Thank you so much.
It was a very enlightening discussion, not just for the viewers, but also to me. I could learn a lot from what I heard from all of you. I thank you, Dr. Kaul, Dr. Handel, Netra, Manisha, Kailash. We had a wonderful talk and a discussion here today. And I hope this will help us at the National Science Center in reaching out to a much wider audience and creating an awareness of the environment. And I'm also sure that the viewers would have found this program rather interesting, because though we keep hearing about the environment and things related to it day in and day out, many of the concepts are not really clear to most people. And I'm sure that on the behalf of all the viewers, I must thank all our participants today for having clarified a lot of concepts and told us what we can do in the future to maintain a clean and green environment. Thank you, panelists. It's been a wonderful discussion. And the planet Earth is in a very unique position. It's said to be positioned in the Goldilocks zone. That is, it is placed at a distance from the sun where it's neither too close nor too far. The temperature, the gravitational attraction of the sun, the radiations from the sun, a lot of other things gives Earth the potential to create and sustain life. And it is from that power of earth that we human beings emerged, and we are now interacting in a very intense manner with our co-inhabitants, other plants, animals, even microbes, even viruses on a day-to-day basis. And in a sense, our interaction with the environment is leading to large-scale degradation of the environment and destruction of biodiversity. This is a very bad thing to happen. We evolved as one among millions of species, and today we are trying to assume ownership and superiority over this planet, over its biosphere, over several aspects of Earth, which eventually will lead to disaster. It will not just destroy the environment, it will destroy us also, because we are also part of the environment. I think if this message gets through on this World Environment Day on the 5th of June 2020, National Science Center would have done a great service to all the viewers of this program. I hope you all enjoyed this program, and do keep joining us. Subscribe to our channel and click on the notification icon. Keep joining us. We will be releasing a lot of programs time and again for you. Lot of interactive programs, quizzes, interactive videos, and several other programs. Do keep joining us, keep encouraging us, giving us feedback, learning from us, and telling us how to do better. Thank you.